Can you imagine writing something different than a crime novel?
Well, I think I like the structure of crime.
When was the first time you thought you wanted to be a writer?
I think it was when I was growing up in Cyprus, and I was about 12 years old. And I went into my sister's bedroom, and she had a collection of Agatha Christie novels. And they had crazy covers in the 1980s, and they were really scary. And then there were none off the shelf, and I read it, and I was really frightened but addicted immediately. And then that summer I read them on the beach, as many of them as I could read. And I had such a happy experience that I thought, oh, I want to try and write a detective story one day. And so it took me, decades to get to doing it, but that was when I think the first idea came.
Can you remember the first time you wrote something?
I think I tried to write a book when I was about 15. It didn't really work, and then I would write stories and then scripts and stuff, but I think ever since I was very young, I've loved it, yeah.
What do you like the most about writing? It's a kind of expressing yourself. It's not like...
Yeah, I think you put it well. It's expressing yourself. I use it as a kind of therapy, I suppose. I like to analyze my characters, and the characters are all kind of part of me, and so they become... It's a way of thinking about things about myself, I suppose. The first book, I kind of wrote it all around the world as I was working. And I used to carry like a stack of paper with me everywhere. The second one I wrote in COVID in London, so I was trapped in my flat. And the third one, the Domenos, I wrote in Cyprus the whole time. And that was probably the happiest writing experience because I wrote it in my flat in Nicosia, where I was just completely quiet and peaceful. And I like to lock myself away when I write and become a bit of a hermit and just focus on the writing and not seeing many people. And so yeah, I could never work in a cafe, for example. No, I kind of get enraged by people's conversations and I just like shush, because I'm trying to work. So it's better that I'm on my own for everybody else, I think. In my new book, Domenos, I was the hero, Elliot, goes on a similar journey in therapy to the one that I went on. And so it's about trying to capture some of the things that I went through, I suppose. I always go back to Agatha Christie. She always sets her novels in an isolated location. It's a house, it's an airplane, it's a train carriage. And so with my first novel, I tried to write something that she hadn't done. And I was working in a psychiatric unit, and she had never written a novel there, so I set one there. And then for my second novel, she had never set anything in a college, and so I set something in a Cambridge college. And then I kind of ran out of ideas that she hadn't already used. And I thought, okay, I'll do an island, and then there were none. But then I thought what I could bring to it from my own experience was having lived and born and lived on an island. But also the inspiration came for it to be a film. I always wanted to write a thriller set on an island with this small cast of characters and a murder. And so it's going to hopefully be a film now, which is exciting. They're all going to be made. The Silent Patient hopefully will be filmed this year. The Maidens might be a TV series. The Fury I'm adapting myself with a producer in Los Angeles. Yeah, but it's kind of, I used to be a screenwriter, and it's important to me, but less than you might think. I'm much more, I love books, and I love writing books. And so I'm more focused on my next book than thinking about the film adaptation.
How long does it take to write a book? Do you have a writing routine, maybe?
Yeah, I think I'm getting faster. I mean, the first one took 5 years.
5 years?
Yeah, but then I was working as a screenwriter at the same time, so I wasn't doing it all the time. And there was no pressure because I didn't think it was going to get published, and so I just wrote it for me, and so I took my time. I think once you get into the publishing world, there's always a ticking clock, and people are expecting the next book and they want you to do it, and so there's a kind of slight pressure. But the next book, because the next book I want to write is going to be quite a big book. I think I'm going to try and take a few more years to write it.
Can you remember the first time you saw someone reading your book?
Yeah, it's happened fewer times than you would think. I was on a train in New York a couple of years ago, and the person sitting behind me was reading it, and that was really funny. I think I can't imagine myself not being a writer. You know, it's always what I'd never really had a choice. You know, it was always what I wanted to do. My first novel in a drawer because I thought it was terrible, and so I just kept giving up. But then thankfully something kept making me take it out of the drawer and keep going. And now I look back on that time and I think, gosh, if I hadn't kept working on it, my life never would have changed.
What advice would you give to somebody writing a novel?
Keep going.